Welcome to this week's episode of the Dope Creator Podcast. I'm your host, Diamond, and here we get real with your favorite creators and CEOs. We have conversations that will challenge you, motivate you, educate you, and ultimately remind you of how dope you are. So today we have another repeat guest, my other girly girl, my friend. Hi, Rochelle.
How are you? It's great to be back.
It's great to see you back. Like just missing your presence. Just yeah.
I appreciate that. I've been working on a lot, so I'm excited to get into it.
I'm excited to get into it. Like, let's give the girlies the tea, but we gotta wait. We gotta let them wait a little bit. So, tell the girls who you are, what you do.
Rochelle, I'm a diversity talent attraction partner at Salesforce. So I focus on underrepresented groups and minority talent. So Black, African American, Latinx, Hispanic, Indigenous, women, of course. And then I've kind of gotten into working with people with disabilities and veterans as well. So covering a wide scope there. In addition, I like to go to events. So some of you might have seen me at local events. I've traveled around to different ones. So I've been at AfroTech. I went to Thanksgiving last year. I have quite a few that I'm going to this year. So definitely excited there. And as you know, kind of working at recruiting, you have to be good at networking. So I'm kind of the master at networking, I would say. Someone referred to me as a podcast I was on recently as Row the Plug. But when it comes to like tech and connecting people with others, so yeah.
I love that. I saw that podcast, by the way, and I thought that was hilarious. I was like, you probably should not say that in the streets because somebody gonna pull up on her and be like, "Yo, you got something?" Like, no.
Yeah.
That is
But
hilarious.
I will say that from that episode, I created my own hashtag. So I'm Row the DEI Pro.
Period.
You can follow it on LinkedIn, and I post some great content there. But yeah.
Period. I love that. So, for the folks that don't know, what was it like for you growing up? And how did your childhood and education kind of lead you into this life of tech and recruiting?
So I grew up to dual Army veterans. So we traveled around a lot. I actually wasn't born in the States. I was born in Seoul, Korea. So early on, I got exposure to different cultures, things like that. So it's always been interesting to me. I travel just on my own as well to different countries, things like that. So I think that early on really had an impact on culture and like being very accepting of people with different backgrounds and cultures. So what got me into kind of the working on the diversity side of recruiting is I'm a bit advocate for everyone having equal rights. So like I've done marches for like women when it came everything that happened with George Floyd during the pandemic. I was in the streets protesting. So I made a promise to myself, like in my next role, I wanted to do something more fulfilling versus just recruiting. At the time, I was in healthcare recruiting. So I made that pivot to tech recruiting. And this kind of fell in my lap and it's kind of just taken off since then. I've met some great people. I networked with so many people in the industry. And I'm just really trying to continue to grow that brand and exposure because I think a lot of Black and brown people in tech don't know that there's opportunities out there, especially like at big companies like Salesforce, Slalom. I mean, some of those other big companies, Microsoft. So there's definitely a need out there for us. So
For sure, girl, there is so much need out there for us. People act like we're not needed, but we are. Don't do that. But I love to hear though that you were out there in the streets, like protesting, not selling no, you know what I'm saying? Because you're not the plug that in that version. But love to know that you were out there too trying to make a change because honestly, America is America. I would just put it that way. And it's almost like regardless of how much we do, we're still stuck in this same cycle of just feeling almost hopeless in a way and almost feeling like stuck and the fact that we have so many glass ceilings to break and it's almost as if like we continue breaking them but we still have multiple more to go through and it's honestly very exhausting. You've been up to some really cool things since season 1 episode 1, which by the time this airs it would have been exactly a year. And so if y'all are like, what are you talking about? Go back to season 1. I mean, like, ignore the first part of that because there's been a lot of growth there. So we're gonna ignore the cringiness that I was probably, putting off, but it's fine. But that episode was super good, especially since it was during the whole, like during that time, there was just a huge array, like nonstop of tech layoffs and all the people of color. Well, everybody was getting laid off, honestly, but it seemed like it was impacting our community much more. And that literally aired a year ago. So we were talking about all that good stuff, but she's been doing some really cool things since then. So give us the tea, what you've been up to.
So, what to just amplify your point about tech layoffs, they're still happening right now. I would say
Mm-hmm.
not as large of a scale as it was. But I do want to highlight just Salesforce, though. We have grown our diversity team. So, a lot of teams, as you know, like if you've been following the Supreme Court, like they're ruling with DEI and companies not really having to enforce that or practice it anymore. A lot of big tech companies, even companies outside of tech, they've gotten rid of those teams that they had. And Salesforce we grew ours from 4 people to I think there's like 14 or 15 of us now. And it expands like international. So we have someone in Japan, someone in France now, someone in Germany. And I think it's only going to expand even further as we open more of those international offices. So just wanted to highlight that. And that's also one of our values is equality. So just really amplifying that there.
Yes. I remember too seeing a video, I think it was on LinkedIn actually, and there was like, I don't even know what was going on, but there was just a bunch of Black people dancing together and they were having like this party and stuff, and it was very cool to see just like the togetherness that was coming through too. But yes, the layoffs were definitely insane and they're still happening. And I was actually one of those layoffs too, so it was a very scary time for me as well. But here we are, still alive. We made it through, y'all. If you are still struggling and still dealing with that, you will make it through. Okay, just keep going. But what kind of events have you been planning? Because you did tell us you were planning events. So I just want to know.
So I've been working with a couple organizations. So one I have planned, but it hasn't officially been announced, but it'll be coming in April. It's actually in a collaboration that I've kind of been working on since last year. Myself and the founder of the group, we've been working pretty closely. So I'm excited for that to come out. I can't really say much because he hasn't officially announced it, but when that does come, it will be very exciting for sure. And then there's some upcoming events with Snowflake. So I'm helping out with that event. It'll be happening at the Dallas Tower. So there's within Salesforce, there's communities. So Trailblazer community groups that are started by people who either work at Salesforce or kind of work within the ecosystem at one of our partners. So I've been collaborating a lot with some of those groups. So I'll actually be going to a local conference in the Dallas-Fort Worth area called Dreamin. It will be part of a larger conference that it's also with some other, I think it's a Microsoft-based conference and Innotech. So part of it will be a Women in Tech Summit. So I'm really excited to go to that, kind of amplify and see kind of just the boss women in DFW, specifically within tech. And then there's some other things we're kind of planning internally. So just more things to come. You know, I can't announce anything before the company has announced it. Definitely just keep a lookout. Anything that I am working on, I will, of course, post on my LinkedIn. I'm going to a couple upcoming conferences. So I don't know if you've heard of Baddies in Tech. I'm actually really close with the founder. So she will that conference will be happening in August in New York. So I'm really excited about that. I'm also going to Dreamin in Color. So that will be in June. And fingers crossed, I think I will be actually speaking at that event. But yeah. And then I know you recently connected with someone that I collaborate with a lot. I'm not going to announce her name, but you know, she should be making a guest appearance on your show as well. So.
Like, I'm gonna make it obvious when she pops. I'm like, by the way, remember that episode? Yeah, this is her. Yeah. Look, let me tell y'all, okay, because I don't think y'all understand, and y'all may think y'all understand, but like y'all really don't understand how phenomenal Rochelle's networking skills are. Like the fact that she has so many connections is literally insane. She'll be like, go talk to this person. I'm like, how did you even find them? Like, what were you doing? I don't understand. And I honestly want to be like you when I get older, but like, your girl's an introvert and she wants to hide and she doesn't want to talk to anybody. So I don't know how I expect me to do anything with my life if I don't talk to people. But we're trying. We're a work in progress. And so let's get into it because it's literally insane. And let's just get into basically, I guess, starting off the importance of expanding your network. So how did you even develop these skills to even be able to network, because like it's a strategy. You don't have to go up to people like, hey, what's up? But you kind of have to have a strategy of who you're going to talk to, what kind of value you're going to provide for them, and the other way around. So what kind of skills did you develop, and how do you continue to refine those?
So it's definitely a skill you kind of have to tap into. I would say I've started going to a lot of local events. So MixerCloud, that's a Dallas-based event. It's expanded to Houston, and I'm actually really close with that founder as well.
First
I
UI.
volunteered early on at a couple of his events, his tech industry networking events. So
Mm-hmm.
typically, on average, like those events have like over 300 to 500 people depending on the day. So that's local in Dallas. And I just kind of started going to that, getting my feet wet and just reaching out to people. For that one, they wear name tags. So, as a recruiter, I had a green sticker that meant I'm hiring. So I'm just kind of going around looking at everyone's name tag if they're open to work.
Okay.
I'm also a part of a couple of the Trailblazer groups. Funny story, like 2 weeks ago, I went to one of the events. I've been going to the event since like October of last year.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, at that event, I got asked to speak at an upcoming Women in Tech chapter in Dallas. And I also collaborated with someone else who has like a Salesforce specific podcast. So I'll be appearing on another podcast. And I actually, the same person that wanted me to come speak at their event, I actually connected her with a recruiter because there was a job she was interested in. So,
Girl.
what you can accomplish going to those events. I mean, it's an after work hours event. So usually I kind of log it as volunteer time off, or I just structure my day differently because technically I'm still working. Since I'm a recruiter, I'm talking about those some jobs I'm hiring for, things like that. And I've actually spoken at that event before last year. So, and a lot of these are free. So just kind of
Mm-hmm.
reaching out. I tell people all the time, I don't know if you were following, but I recently reposted. There's another recruiter. She's like a content creator. She
Mm-hmm.
created this Power 50 list, and it's Black History Month.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely want to amplify those recruiters, content creators on LinkedIn. But she created a list, and I went through that list and I sent connection requests with a note, just like, hey, I found you from the Power 50 list. Like, just thought you'd be a great person to kind of network with. Some of those people had over 200,000 followers, but they responded to me. So just that small reach out can go a long way versus just clicking through and just connecting with people, like including a small note, like why you want to connect with them. So I've set up a couple coffee chats with some of those creators for like next week. So I'm excited to kind of connect with them, collaborate, especially the folks that work in that DEI space.
I love that. Y'all put yourself out there. You literally never know. Honestly, the worst thing they could do is say no, maybe block you, or just not even respond. Like, I promise you, they won't find your address, pull up, and like, bop, bop. Like, they won't do that. So, like, literally just put yourself out there and see what happens. And I think I had to learn that for myself too, because as someone who grew up very much introverted and stayed to myself, sliding into people's DMs, being like, "Hey, I found your content, and I just wanted to connect." And like maybe they don't respond. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they don't. And when they do, they're like, yeah, I want to talk. Yeah, I want to hang out. Yeah, I want to do this and that." And so this even reminds me though, like of my current job, I connect with creators. I talk to creators all day, every day. Some people are like they're up high of like multi six figures following, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, like I want to connect with you on Instagram and give me your number." And I'm sitting here, I'm like, "Wait, what? Little old me with 900 little followers? Like you want to connect with me?" I mean, okay, girl. I mean, let's be friends or whatever. And even a few of them are like going to be on this podcast, so it's actually quite insane and kind of nerve wracking and also kind of terrifying because like that's a lot of eyes, that's a lot of people, that's a lot of ears. Like I don't know what's gonna happen this year, but this year does like it just definitely gives abundance, and it also gives like I kind of want to crawl into a hole and just be by myself because I don't know, but look, networking is key. Sliding into DMs is key. Like really just putting yourself out there because I don't know how you think you're going to get to where you want to be if nobody knows you.
Yes, 100%. Especially in today's market, I would say as a recruiter, it's great you can apply to a job, but I will
Mm-hmm.
say some jobs I had 1,300 applicants. So, I mean, essentially, eventually we're going to go through all those applicants, but you're not at the top of the list unless you're sending like a message and I'm going
Mm-hmm.
in, pulling your application. So, I always say to people, apply to the job, then do your research on LinkedIn, try to reach out to a recruiter, and just keep it short and sweet. Don't send me your resume. Don't send me your cover letter. Just be like, hey, my name's so-and-so. I recently applied to your opening. Would love to chat. And just keep it at that. I'm not going to say every recruiter is going to respond to you, but just that short, sweet message, or better yet, the voice memo. You can actually record a message. I think it might be up to a minute or something like that.
What?
And just send that to a recruiter, because we can still be working and push play and listen to the message, because active listening, that's what we do all day, every day as a recruiter anyway.
Right. I didn't even realize they added that feature. Y'all, look, already. She didn't put y'all on. Go ahead and do it. That is so true. And honestly, that's how I got my current job, is like, if I want a job before I want something, like, I am adamant about getting it and I am persistent. I was DMing people who were on the team. I was like doing my research, being like, hey, I would love to chat. Hey, I recently applied to this position. Here are a few of my skills. Like, I know that I am able to, do this job and do this job well. And I won't say like it'll always happen immediately, but after like a year or two, a year and a half ish of persistence, I got the job. So I went into multiple reviews or interviews with my current company, and they were like, no, but we enjoyed you or whatever. And so eventually with this current position, like, I finally got it. And what was even crazier, y'all, you never know the impact that you have on people or executives. When you're interviewing with them, they can remember you. They most likely will remember you if you leave that good image perspective.
Yeah.
Y'all know what I'm saying. But last month, I actually went to, so my company flew us out to the headquarters in Dallas. And we had like this kickoff event where we got to meet everyone on our team in real life, because I work remote and I will never leave remote ever. But we got to meet each other in real life. And I remember seeing one of the executives who I actually interviewed with the first time I interviewed with this company. And she was like, yeah, I remember you. And I was like, huh? She's like, yeah, I remember you. Like, you were so great, so sweet, like super fun. I even told your manager. She's like, yeah, I even told your manager to make sure you hire her. Like, there's something about her. And I just sat there, I was like, what? And I like bawled. I was like, I don't know what to do. I mean, it also could have been because I was tipsy also. So, I mean, that probably could have played a role in it. But you literally never know, like, what people are saying about you behind closed doors and in rooms. So just put yourself out there. Just connect with people, even if they give you a no. A no now could be a yes later.
Just to kind of amplify that, the power of networking, not only internally, but externally as well. That's why we suggest conferences, because before conference, they put all the speakers. So what I do is I'll see which like sessions I want to go to, and I actually send a note. Hey, I'm going to your session. Just wanted to connect beforehand. Maybe we can kind of talk offline in person. So just tidbits like that go a long way too.
That's good. Are you going to AfroTech this year?
I think I will be. I don't know if they've like officially announced it. I think we are. More than likely I'll be there. If not, then I might just kind of come on my own. There's a lot of companies and like groups that I know go there. So I usually try to go if they're doing like any happy hours, anything anyway. So
got you. Cool. Fun fact, y'all, I actually met Rochelle at Salesforce to tell you everything about this girl's skills. And now we're like this, and her birthday's coming up. We should just turn up. It's gonna be lit. Okay. I won't tell y'all the theme that's like off the record, but just know
you're gonna be serving.
We're gonna be outside. But that's super, super cool. So what specific strategies then, or like at least a few or a couple, do you implement when you are networking or you're at a networking event? And then to ensure too that your follow-up game is strong and consistent, because you can meet all these people at an event and then never follow up with them and you never hear from them again. So, and even if you do follow up with them, what kind of like a good follow-up is, and not just very generic and not personal,
So typically before an event, what I'll do is I'll look at the list of speakers, if that's something that's posted, and I'll see kind of plan my schedule. Typically, a lot of conferences have apps where you can actually go through and make your schedule. So I'll reach out to those speakers, be like, hey, I'm Rochelle. I'm going to your session. Just wanted to kind of reach out beforehand. And if it's someone I really want to connect with, I would be like, hey, I'd love to connect before, after the event, just to talk more in depth. So that's something I always do. And then even after the event, maybe I forgot them in the beginning, but we kind of networked after, I'll send them like a quick message like, hey, we connected in person, especially if someone introduced me through so and so. I just wanted to reconnect, would love to set up a coffee chat, 15, 20 minutes there. And then specifically for like candidates, sometimes people don't check their messages. I mean, I'm the same way. If anyone reaches out to me, it's probably like a 48 to 72-hour response period because depending on the day, I might get 40 messages in a day and I'm like, ooh, do I want to start that or not?
Mm-hmm.
So that's just kind of what I do. Also, I learned this. So if you're going to an event specifically for like AfroTech, I'm more than likely going to that event, but you can actually say you're going and then you can see everyone who's attending. So you can be proactive and be like, hey, I see that you're going to this event, just wanted to connect. And you never know what conversations can spark from that. And pretty much any event that's on LinkedIn, you can tap in to see who's attending if they've made it public.
Mm-hmm. That's so true. Actually, I'm going to use that as a tip. I love that. Slide it into their DMs, like seeing who, is speaking and then be like, hey, I'm going to your session and I would love to connect or chat or whatever, or I'll see you there. And that's honestly very genuine. And that's something that I would respond to. Be like, oh, okay, they actually want to connect and not just cold sell me off rip and try to pitch me their freaking business. Like, no, do what you got to do to let your business, to make your business grow and all the good stuff. But like, don't. It's very much a turn off for me. Like, I need you to at least pretend that you want to be friends before you like try to like you want to tell me your business, right? Like something like buy me a coffee and then I'll be willing to listen to you. Like I don't know, but yeah. So that's a really good tip. I'm gonna ingest that, y'all. Just take it in. So, what networking tips then, even like maybe like 2 or 3, would you give to the girls to ensure that they're not just talking to anybody, but making beneficial and genuine connections? Because you are basically an extrovert and an introvert, apparently, but your girl is a full blown introvert until I'm an extrovert. So I'm an introverted extrovert. That's what I actually noticed. I'm an introverted extrovert. So maybe some tips for both of them. Like what do we do?
So I would say if you're going to a networking event and that event is posted on LinkedIn, you can kind of do your research before,
Mm-hmm.
maybe see who's attending, learn something about them, maybe a tidbit. So for example, Allie, who I was talking about, who's the founder of Baddies in Tech,
Mm-hmm.
I actually found her this year at AfroTech. So she was hosting a luncheon. It was limited amount of people, like a limited guest list. So you really had to like get in her peripheral. So what I did was I sent her a message on LinkedIn and I sent her a message on Instagram. But at the event, she was like, oh, yeah, you're Rochelle. You reached out to me on LinkedIn, blah, blah, blah. So clearly, when I reached out to her, it made an impact. So, and I would say always putting a name with a face. So that's why social media comes into play. I would say, I know some people turn off their picture, but I know for me, sometimes it can be hard to find candidates. Sometimes I can infer, like if you went to HBCU or certain things that you follow, I can kind of infer you could be Black, Hispanic, Latinx. But if you don't have your picture, like, if I search the surname, sometimes I do have to get creative and search the surname to see like what is the basis of it. But I would definitely say like just post your picture. Like I understand why some people don't because there are recruiters, people out there that do have biases, but it makes my job easier when you do. Another thing that I definitely want to point out, specifically like when you're interviewing, please disclose, because if you don't disclose, I mean, of course, we can't actually ask you if you're so and so, but when you disclose, at least for us here at Salesforce, like we can see, and then it goes to us, like the specific team that focuses on those demographics. Kind of, we're reaching out and touching base because I mean, you want people to amplify like what you do, what you're doing, just to kind of put you on the radar. Because sometimes it won't happen, to be honest.
Yeah.
So if you're not doing some of that extra legwork, I know some people are like, oh, I don't want to disclose because they're automatically gonna take me out of the pool, and I don't think that's the case.
Yeah, it's definitely not the case, honestly, which is really, really good to know. So y'all, she is the expert. Apparently she is Ro the DEI pro, which I love that for her. I'm sticking to it. That's super catchy and that's a great marketing strategy. So
Exactly.
there you go.
Then you can follow the content too that I create because to your point, I do share like tips and tricks around that and any other kind of content creators that I follow. I know it'll be later when you drop this episode, but on February 16th, if you look on my featured post, I actually shouted out some Black professionals that are really making an impact in the community in different ways. So definitely want to follow that.
She did it. I was one of them. I was like, me? Little old me still figuring out her life? What? Thank you so
Sure.
much.
It doesn't matter your following as long as you're making an impact, the right people are going to tune in. So
That's so, oh my gosh, a word. We could end this right here. That is a word. It doesn't matter how many followers you have. In some capacity, you are making an impact to, the people who are following, who are listening. Yeah. That's so good. So wait, okay, so being the DEI pro, what kind of challenges have come with you? Because like you just don't become a pro, super easy, super smooth. Like there are challenges, okay, there are obstacles, like it's also like a roller coaster. So what kind of challenges have you experienced and how have you moved past those?
So in my role, definitely just advocating for candidates. Because sometimes, as you know, some of these hiring managers or just people in leadership, we do training. Most companies do training, trying to, of course, negate that. But some people just don't realize that they have biases. So when someone has feedback from a candidate and it's kind of borderline, you definitely want to be like, hey, like, I need an example. I need you to elaborate on this because this isn't competency-based feedback. Because typically when you're hiring, there's specific things that you're looking for with a candidate when it comes, for instance, like I do customer success. So typically people that I work with are pretty technical. So they might have some Salesforce certifications, have some coding languages that they're familiar with, things like that. So anytime I see something like that, just kind of want to be like, hey, like this isn't really competency based, just pushing back on that, educating people. Some people don't understand that they have biases. I definitely, of course, in my role, it's kind of seen as it's always my job. And, during Black History Month, people are like, oh, well, can you tell me about it? Like, what's your experience? There's so many great resources. Like, you just have to do some of the work yourself, too. And sometimes that can be overwhelming in this role, hearing a lot of no's. I will say it can be disheartening sometimes, especially when you're already limited to roles. But I just think that one person that I can help is just setting that precedent. And I love, like this year, I got to work with a team that specifically wanted diversity on their team. And I was able to help with that pipeline. And I love that. Like the director recognized that this was something that needed to be improved. So I was able to help with that team, get several candidates in front of them. And I will say we're almost 2 weeks, or maybe it is 2 weeks now, into Q1. And I actually had my first offer acceptance. And he was actually impacted by the Salesforce layoffs last year. So to able to rehire him, I believe on the same team that he was on or one team that he had supported in the past, was just great. So, and he interviewed for a couple openings just because he was just that good. So I'm interested. I'm excited to have him come back and just to share his story. I don't think he's made it public, so I'm not sharing his name, but I know he'll definitely kind of amplify. He sent me like a sweet message, just really thanking me for all the work that I did. Because I was following up with my recruiting partner. I was like, hey, this is a great candidate. Like, what are we doing? Let's get this ball rolling. But with the holidays, it delays things. So
for sure, definitely. Oh my gosh, that's so cool. And there's something in that. You said he already worked at Salesforce, got affected by the layoffs, and then came back to Salesforce. That should tell you right there what kind of company Salesforce is. Because typically, if you get laid off from a company that you didn't even enjoy in the first place, you're kind of relieved, but also still stressed because you still need a paycheck, obviously. And then you don't ever go back to that company. However, since he was so persistent to coming back to this company, clearly he got some type of value from it and he enjoyed it. And you played a huge role in bringing him back into this company that clearly he loved. And I love that for you. I love that for him. And I want that for our listeners and for everyone, honestly, to actually do a job that you enjoy. I mean, even though you probably don't really dream of labor, which I understand, but we live in a life, live in a time where you have to labor to some capacity to survive, to pay bills, like to have fun, to do whatever. And so definitely try to do something that you enjoy, that you love. And whether that's in a career, whether that's entrepreneurship, whether it's a mixture of both, if you're working a 9-to-5 but still working on, your side business until you can do business full time, like make sure it's something that you truly love, because your audience, your people, your coworkers, your colleagues, like they will feel that. And if you don't enjoy it, they're going to be like, oh, they're probably not going to enjoy it either, right? So yeah, that's a word super important. So if anything, speaking of corporate America, let's just do a little skirt.
Yeah.
So if anything in corporate America is consistent, it's the glass ceilings that Black people and people of color have to break through consistently. And that's one thing that I don't want to be consistent at, but here we are. That's a skill, y'all. This is a skill that we have acquired, okay? And it's a well-known fact that we also have to work 10 times, 20 times, maybe even 50 times harder in order to get promoted, to get a raise, to get hired, to get a client, if we're owning a business, to do whatever. And so to fill that gap, your role as a recruiter is to really find diverse talent, right? And to help provide those opportunities, roll the DEI pro, okay? And so how do you go about finding that talent besides like the obvious, like on LinkedIn, right? But like there's a skill that requires you to actually be able to sift through LinkedIn like professionally or skillfully, right? And so how do you go about finding that talent and helping them break those glass ceilings?
So, I mean, of course, LinkedIn, I have a pretty big network. And I think I looked this morning, I have like over 9,500 followers. So, just really tapping into that network, people follow me. I post the jobs that I'm hiring for. So, I get a lot of reach outs that way. I really utilize LinkedIn. So, if you look at any of my hashtags that I use, diversity in tech, Black in tech, Latinas in tech, Latinos, I'm utilizing all those hashtags just to make sure like those groups are able to see them. I also partner with different organizations. So I think recently I was added to like the Techsgiving. That's that tech conference that I went to in December. That conference will be happening again this upcoming December in DC, where I'll be attending again. But they added me to their newsletter. Baddies in Tech. I should be actually added to their newsletter as well. So just really networking with those groups, creating those partnerships, also recently connected with Hiring Our Heroes. So those are veterans, those will be military spouses that are potentially kind of looking for tech jobs. And then to your point, like going to conferences, kind of local networking events. If anyone works in Salesforce, Trailhead is your best friend. That's a great platform to use. You can find local trailblazer groups. You can find people maybe that are studying for the same tests or just meetups with similar interests when it comes to like admin, developers, things like that. And plus, you never know who you can meet, to be honest. So you might be introduced to one person, they introduce you to someone else. So when I went to Techsgiving, that's very much what happened. One of my good recruiter friends, Bobby, he introduced me to a ton of people at Techsgiving. And then Allie Joy of Baddies in Tech, she introduced me to quite a few people. I was partying and of course, networking too it's a startup called RightC. So if that's not on your radar, that's another great startup, which is an AI platform for like resumes and job boards, things like that, helping create your cover letter. And then actually Vanessa Smithers, there's her organization, a nonprofit, it's called Grow Home Please. I amplify her on all my platforms. She does LinkedIn and resumes because to be honest, some of y'all's LinkedIns need a lot of help. Because if I send your LinkedIn to my recruiting partner and they can't give me an answer, that means you don't have enough information on that. Your LinkedIn should essentially be your resume. Like in today's day and age, like recruiters, we're on LinkedIn all day, every day. That's how we source our talent. So if it's not up to date with bullet points, your certifications, things like that, that's why you're not getting a response. Exactly why.
It's exactly why. I actually recently helped my cousin with his LinkedIn. He was like, yeah, so I need a new job. Like, yo, this is not working out. And I was like, I need you to get on LinkedIn. And he was like, oh, I'm on LinkedIn. I looked at his LinkedIn. I was like, no, sorry, your LinkedIn needs some milk. Like, I can't. So I started sending him all these resources and all these people who are like digital creators who talk about how to get a job and doing their resumes and what to do when you're filling out your LinkedIn. So LinkedIn experts. So I did that for him and he got it together. And I was like, yes, this is what it looks like. Now go slide into some DMs and get a job. Right. And so I love that you mentioned Vanessa because I just love her content. I love her vibe, her energy. And she does some great work to get y'all asses together, okay, and get you a job. So go follow her. Just go. Definitely use your resources. There is so many free resources out there. Definitely utilize them. So my final question for you, girl, kind of just like we like to leave some actionable advice, some actionable tips at the end of each episode. So what word of advice, or if you got a couple words, would you give to someone who just simply feels exhausted as soon as they break one glass ceiling and they have to break another, or they're exhausted with finding a job because they continue getting so many no's and it just feels hopeless, or just all that? What would you say to that person?
So first and foremost, self-care is so
Oh,
important. So
period.
scheduling weekly, monthly self-care, maybe get a
Mhm.
facial. I love the infrared sauna. I try to go every other week, sweat out those toxins, that stress. And then just having, I tell even my coworkers this. Yes, we're grinding 40 hours,
Mhm.
40 plus hours a week sometimes in my day job, but you can find fulfillment within your job, within your employee resource groups, or here at Salesforce, we call them business resource groups. So recently I'm now the events co-chair for Dallas for the Women's Network. So I'm actually planning an event next month that I'm actually going to be leading. So I'm planning that whole event pretty much. Just specifically, I'll be doing a workshop like around LinkedIn,
Mhm.
resume tips. I'll actually be bringing Vanessa on, and I'll be bringing someone else
Period.
as well. Actually, one of my hires, and she was recently recognized by, I believe, like on the presidential websites for like pay equity, because she's done a lot of work for Black women and pay equity. So just really amplifying like some of what she's doing, and I wanted her to like talk to the women overall, like broader audience. I also am involved in Bold Force, so it's Black History Month. So our event is actually coming up at the end of this month, and we will be having a special guest. Once that content is dropped, I will definitely share someone who's really been making an impact in the community. We'll have a fireside chat with him. So yeah, so excited for that. And then again, like Ep4, so tapping into those employee resource groups there at your company, self-care, and then maybe just taking a break, maybe taking a couple days off, maybe attending some workshops, seeing where you need to fine-tune some of those skills. So maybe there's a resume, LinkedIn workshop, or maybe you've been considering a different career path, so doing like a workshop maybe within marketing, that's something you're kind of interested in. So just things like that. You don't always have to go 100 miles per hour. Sometimes you need to have those seasons where you're just kind of relaxing, or those
Mhm.
seasons of education. At Salesforce, the great thing is you can utilize Trailhead. So for me, I have interest in like the AI certification. There's also like a new marketing certification that I'm interested in. So those are some things I'm kind of going to work on my own, because I gotta make time for it.
Yeah.
But things like that, and just being vocal. I think some people, of course, it depends on your manager, but anyone who's following me knows that I'm also the caregiver for my mom right now,
Mhm.
during her breast cancer journey. So like self care, stepping away from things is very important. And I would say like 2 weeks ago, I was probably feeling like super overwhelmed. So I just kind of told some people, hey, like we need to kind of step back and maybe we can revisit it in May. But I just feel like I'm kind of drowning right now with everything that's going on. So, and really just holding on to your circle, like your friends, who can you call, talk to for like an hour, maybe have some wine while you do it, just to kind of decompress and get a different perspective. Because sometimes the things that we're stressing over, you'll tell your friend and they'll be like, oh, that's it, girl, you fine.
Literally. Oh my goodness, that's so good. I can't even tell you how many times like this past year has been super rough for me. And instead of reaching out to my friends and ranting and venting and trying to get another perspective, I stayed to myself and I just kind of internally processed it. And honestly, I would have gotten through healing quicker had I just called my friends up and not just disappeared off the face of the earth for months. Like, bless my friend's heart for being so patient and understanding. Because when I tell you, I did not respond to Rochelle for like months on end, and I'd be like, "Hi, still love
Yeah.
you. So sorry." Like,
I got you. Like I said, everyone goes through the season. So I know I would just be like, hey, like, you good? You need anything? When are you coming to Dallas? Let's link up. So,
yes, and she's coming next month, and it's gonna be a good time, honestly. Yeah. Well, y'all, I hope y'all enjoyed this episode. There was so much goodness in here, a little bit of chaos, but I mean, I wouldn't be a good host if I didn't have any chaos in my episodes. So there's
of
that.
course.
But I hope you guys enjoyed it. Take it in. It really continue, like, take that in, that advice, and just continue pushing. Like, it may be hard, it may be annoying, but you have so many resources, so many people that love you, and so just keep going. Rochelle? Roro, thank you so much for coming on to season 2, where you can see my lighting is better. So yeah, don't go watch that that season 1 episode 5 of on YouTube. Don't watch it, but just listen to it on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. But don't watch it because my lighting was very questionable. So it was a quality, but you have to start somewhere. But definitely go listen to that episode. And Roro, thank you so much for being here again. I appreciate it.
It's been great. Thanks for having me again.
Of course.
It was a pleasure as always.
As always a pleasure talking to you. Tell the people where they can find you. I don't think they don't know, but I know.
So you can find me on LinkedIn, so under Rochelle Rawls, or you can kind of look for my hashtag Grow the DEI Pro. You can follow me on Instagram, but if you reach out anything about Salesforce, that's my personal page, so I'm not going to respond. Just keep it 100. But you can follow me on Instagram at Rochelle_Monet R. And I post a lot of content. I post some tech content, but a lot of food, a lot of travel, a lot of self-care. So,
period. We love a good self-care girly. Okay. I will talk to y'all soon or see y'all soon. I'm probably just going to edit this part out because why did I say that? But whatever.